The studio lights were familiar, comforting even, but this moment wasn't about performance or routine. Kelly Ripa's decision reflected something quieter and far more human: the understanding that life occasionally asks us to pause. Known for her quick wit and boundless energy, she has spent years greeting audiences with consistency and warmth. Yet behind that rhythm lived a woman deeply aware of the balance between public life and private responsibility. Choosing to slow down wasn't dramatic or defiant, it was thoughtful. It came from recognizing that presence matters most when life shifts, when connection needs reinforcement rather than distraction. This wasn't about abandoning work or redefining success. It was about honoring timing. By listening to her instincts and personal priorities, Kelly demonstrated that strength sometimes shows up not in showing up, but in stepping back with intention and care. A life always in motion. Kelly's career has always reflected momentum. From her early acting years to decades of live television, she mastered the art of being prepared, upbeat, and fully engaged. Colleagues often speak about her professionalism, how she arrives ready, focused, and generous with energy. But beneath that forward motion has always been someone deeply rooted in family life. Like many people balancing demanding careers and personal commitments, she learned how to shift roles seamlessly. Still, even the most capable people reach moments when constant movement no longer serves what matters most. Slowing down, in this sense, wasn't a loss of drive. It was an adjustment. It was an acknowledgement that life isn't meant to be lived at one speed forever. Choosing to pause reflected maturity, clarity, and an understanding that balance isn't static. It's something we continually recalibrate. Partnership at the center. At the heart of Kelly's life is her partnership with Consuelos, a relationship shaped over decades, built on shared history, humor, and mutual respect. Their connection has always felt grounded, even when surrounded by public attention. Beyond titles and careers, they have navigated life as teammates, adapting to changing seasons together. Strong partnerships aren't defined by grand gestures, but by everyday presence and attentiveness. When life requires extra care, true partnership becomes visible in quiet ways. Listening more closely, adjusting priorities, and simply being there. Kelly's decision reflected that understanding. It wasn't about sacrifice in a dramatic sense, but about responsiveness. Long relationships endure because both people recognize when to lean in closer. In choosing presence over routine, she reinforced the idea that commitment isn't static. It's an ongoing, living choice. Listening to what life asks. Big decisions rarely arrive all at once. They form gradually through conversations, reflection, and an awareness that something needs attention. Kelly's pause came from listening carefully to herself, to her family, and to the subtle signals life offers when balance begins to tilt. In a culture that often rewards powering through, choosing to slow down can feel uncomfortable. Yet there's wisdom in recognizing when focus needs to shift. This wasn't about fear or burnout, it was about alignment. Sometimes life asks for less noise and more presence. Responding to that call requires trust. Trust that stepping back doesn't erase what you've built, and that tending to personal life strengthens everything else. By honoring that moment, Kelly modeled a grounded approach to decision-making, one rooted in awareness rather than urgency. When absence is felt. Even brief, absences are noticeable when someone's presence has been consistent. Viewers felt the difference, not because something was wrong, but because familiarity carries comfort. Kelly addressed her time away with openness and calm, reinforcing that pauses don't need dramatic explanations. Her approach reflected confidence that stepping back didn't require apology. It reminded audiences that taking care of personal life is not a weakness, but a responsible choice. The response from viewers carried empathy and understanding, reflecting how relatable this decision felt. Many people recognized themselves in it, the push and pull between responsibility and presence. Her absence wasn't about disappearing, it was about redefining attention. Sometimes stepping away briefly allows space for what truly matters to come into focus. The quiet shift at home. Away from daily schedules and studio timing, life naturally softened. Mornings unfolded without urgency, and evenings weren't measured by the clock. These shifts often seem small, yet they carry weight. Unstructured time creates room for reflection, conversation, and rest, things easily overlooked in busy lives. Kelly embraced that slower rhythm, finding value in simplicity rather than productivity. Friends noticed a calmness that comes when expectations loosen. This kind of stillness isn't empty, it's restorative. It allows relationships to breathe and people to reconnect without distraction. In these quieter moments, presence becomes the priority. The absence of constant demands made space for attentiveness, reinforcing that meaningful connection often grows not from effort, but from availability. A message. Without a microphone. In an industry driven by visibility, choosing to pause quietly can send a powerful message. Kelly's decision resonated not because it was announced loudly, but because it reflected something universally understood. Many people juggle roles that compete for attention, often feeling pressure to excel everywhere at once. Her example gently challenged that expectation. Success, she demonstrated, isn't measured only by output or consistency, it's also measured by discernment. Knowing when to step back requires courage, especially when momentum feels essential. Her colleagues adapted seamlessly, underscoring that workplaces function best when built on trust and respect. This moment highlighted an often overlooked truth. Honoring personal priorities doesn't diminish professionalism. It strengthens it. Rediscovering simple time. Without the structure of daily broadcasting, Kelly returned to simple rituals. Reading, walking, thinking without interruption. These moments didn't need an audience to matter. They offered space to reconnect with herself outside of roles and expectations. Reflection became part of the day, not something squeezed in between obligations. This rediscovery wasn't about reinventing identity, but about remembering it. Many people lose touch with quiet parts of themselves amid constant responsibility. Slowing down allows those parts to resurface. Friends noticed a grounded ease in her presence, the kind that comes from alignment rather than achievement. These small, ordinary moments carried meaning precisely because they weren't performative. They were real, unfiltered, and restorative. Strength, found in stillness. Partnership deepens in stillness. Without outside noise, shared moments gain clarity. Conversations stretch, laughter comes naturally, and support becomes tangible through attention rather than words. Kelly and Mark's bond strengthened not through dramatic events, but through everyday presence. This phase highlighted that intimacy thrives when space is made for it. Love doesn't always demand action. Sometimes it asks for patience and listening. Choosing to be fully present reinforced the foundation they had built over years. This wasn't about redefining their relationship, but about nurturing it. Stillness revealed resilience, reminding them that shared history becomes a source of strength when life slows enough to honor it. Returning with perspective time away offered clarity. Stepping back didn't weaken Kelly's sense of purpose, it refined it. When she returned, it was with renewed energy, shaped by reflection, rather than exhaustion. Perspective changes when priorities are honored. The work remained meaningful, but it no longer competed with what grounded her. This balance enriched both worlds. Audiences sensed a depth that comes from lived experience, not performance. Intentional pauses don't interrupt momentum, they redirect it. By allowing space for personal life, she returned more present, not less. Her experience illustrated that renewal isn't found in pushing harder, but in listening more closely to what sustains you, choosing presence every time. Ultimately, this chapter wasn't about absence or headlines. It was about presence. Kelly's decision reflected a truth many people feel but rarely act on. Life is shaped by the moments we choose to prioritize. Love, partnership, and connection aren't background elements. They are the foundation. Choosing them doesn't require justification. Her story resonated because it was human, familiar, and quietly brave. In stepping fully into what mattered most, she reminded others that fulfillment isn't measured by visibility alone. Sometimes, the most meaningful choices happen away from applause, in ordinary days shaped by care, attention, and intention. That quiet courage leaves a lasting impact, one built not on spectacle, but on authenticity.